Greetings, salutations. Well, it's come that time. Bought this iPhone SE. Was gonna run it for a little while and see what I thought about iOS. This will be getting the iOS 13, but I've actually decided to sell the phone. Now, that's not an indication as to how I feel about the phone. I just got a chance to sell it so that I can pick something else up, because when you're on a budget, you gotta do what you can. So this will be the last video on this phone, and I have to tell you, I love this phone. I kind of hate to sell it, I really do. But you gotta do what you gotta do to keep stuff on the channel. This has worked great. iOS was good. Took a little tweaking to get used to, but it was really good. I like the small phone. Having the smaller size actually was nicer in the pocket. And I was just really... I really love this phone. And of course, Apple's iOS, I think this is running 12.2, I think. Was really good. I had no real issues with that. I will say one thing. I used Google Maps on the iPhone. Works brilliantly. Of course, Google Maps is good anyway. But I did try the iMap one, the one that comes on the iPhone. It's horrible. It is horrible. I can see why people have always said that is terrible. It didn't even have a new road out here. It didn't even know the new road existed. Google Maps already knows that road's there. No problem at all. It was really bad. So if you get an iPhone, make sure you get Google Maps. The navigation one on the iPhone is terrible. And they could actually come with the Google's, I don't know, on the new iPhones. I'm talking about this version. The camera took pretty good pictures, to be honest with you. Outside, good lighting. Like in this room right now, because I got two lights on, it takes pretty good pictures. I mean, it's not as good as a brand new $1,000 phone, but it's not $1,000. All in all, I'd have to say, using an older iPhone, especially the SE version, which is this small form factor, I liked it. I like a smaller phone, surprisingly, because I use my phone for everything, and I am surprised at how easy it was to use this phone. The camera was good. The speaker and the volume, I had no problems with it. I don't know why people said the speaker and this wasn't very loud. And watching videos on the phone was fine. I mean, it was a good quality. The screen was good. All in all, I'd say this phone has aged remarkably well. And a lot of that has to do with, of course, the way it was built, but also the fact that you can get the latest version of iOS on this, which means this has got at least another 2 years of good life out of it. Even though this will be the last update it gets on iOS, you'll still get a couple years out of this before you really need to get something else. And I think that's an important part to learn about this. No matter which you get, if you get iPhones or if you go with the Galaxy phones, or not Galaxy, but the Android phones, what you want to do is invest your money where you get the most bang for the buck. Do not buy a brand new phone this year. Phones depreciate worse than cars. Wait a year and buy last year's flagship. Wait 2 years and buy the 2-year-old flagship. You'll find most of those, especially the bigger names, will at least get one update on the Android phone. But they're perfectly fine with what you need. This phone was a perfect example of that. This phone had a couple years on it, still worked good, though it does have latest version of iOS on it, so that does make a difference. But I've really enjoyed the iPhone. Now, would I get one of the newer iPhones? Probably not, because they're very similar to Android now. Back when this was made, it was a very distinctive look. You know, it was different. It was a different iPhone back then. Today, they're pretty much similar. But iOS was really quite nice. I had no problem navigating through it, the way it worked. It was just flawless would be the word I'd use. So I can understand why people stick with Apple once you get into that ecosystem. If you have an Apple, phone, watch, or an iPad, or if you got, an iMac, or an Apple computer, I can see how everything working, meshing is very, very appealing. I'm not a big hater of either one. You just pick the one you like and you go with it. I still think I prefer Android because I like to switch my phones a lot. And there's so many more choices in the Android field than there is in the iPhones. iPhones are at the higher tier. Unless you like I did, get a couple-year-old one, then you can get something like that. And the good thing with iOS is that they update, that system quite a lot, even on the older phones. So in that perspective, iPhone is definitely better than Android, because a lot of the low-end phones on Android never get updates. You got to get to about the mid-tier before you start getting phones that get updates, and usually that's just one, maybe if you're lucky two. It's real rare to keep up with it. So iPhone's iOS definitely gets better updates. But if I had to weigh the options, I still think I'd stick with Android. But this was a good phone. I'm going to miss this phone. If I had the chance to keep it and get some other stuff that I want to do some reviews on, believe me, this phone would not be going anywhere. But I just, unfortunately, I don't have the money to just buy something and let it sit around. But a very good phone. So if you get a chance, pick up an iPhone SE or an iPhone 6. Even the 7, 8 now that are coming up, those are pretty reasonable. I think if you're into that, if you like Apple, if you want to dip your toe into iOS, those are good options, not spending $1,000 for a new phone. So if you want to do that, I highly recommend it. Anyway, as far as this goes, iOS is really good on this. This is aged well. The camera still does a fairly good job. It's not good in real low lighting, but most phones aren't, even the Androids. So if you want to get something that's small, pick up an SE. It's still good. You'll still get another year or two out of it with no problem. Make sure you buy the version that's got 64 gigs, so you got enough space. If you go 32 is okay, but anything below that, you're gonna have issues. So try to get a 32 or 64 gig for the storage built in. That's my little wrap up of the phone. We'll catch you all in the next one, and I'll let you know what's coming up if I happen to get lucky enough to get the next purchase. All right, we'll talk to you later.